movies. Won't you come and watch a flick?
Hey, Noel T. Manning II here, joined by my good buddy, Mr. Douglas Davidson. Always good to see you, man. It's been way too long. And honestly, with you, even if it was like 2 days, it'd be way too long because I just enjoy spending time with you. And our good buddy, Mr. Greg Tillman, who is he's retired now, but he still says,
dude.
Yeah, he still says Douglas was one of the best special guests you ever had. And so I just had to share that with you, man. That's coming from high praise from Greg Tillman.
That's incredibly high praise. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be here anytime and talk to you anytime, on or off camera.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And the reason we're here, I kind of pitched this. Thomas and I were talking about the movie Jay Kelly and the experience at the screening of it, the Netflix screening of it back last month. The film is in limited theaters now, and it gets an official release date in Netflix. I think that is December 5th. Am I remembering that correctly? December 5th.
Yes, sir, you are.
And so Jay Kelly's one that I said, I need to bring Douglas on to talk about this because I know you had some thoughts about this as well. And they can find your full review, Elements of Madness. And the website is elementsofmadness.com. There you go. I just had to make sure it wasn't a dot something else. So let's get your thoughts on this, and you can kind of dive in wherever you want to. Jay Kelly. And it's got Adam Sandler, it's got George Clooney, Laura Dern. Talk about an ensemble. It's got quite a few more as well.
Jim Broadbent, Emily Mortimer, who is the co-writer of this with Noah Baumbach, she's in it as well. For those of you that don't know what Jay Kelly is about, it's essentially about an actor who is sort of this golden age, if you will, but modern. The Clark Gable, those kinds of Bing Crosby, the actors that just sort of have this panache and quality about the movie stars, if you will. And that's who George Clooney is playing by the name of Jay Kelly. And while one interpretation of this movie is that it is a exploration of an actor potentially at the end of his career, and so he's looking back on his life, I tend to look at it as, and I think that Emily Mortimer and Noah Baumbach make a case for this through the production of it, that it's actually about the fact that we only have one life to live, and that the choices we make have consequences that reverberate. And that the life that we create for ourselves, the dreams that we have, they all more or less come at a cost. And it's really sort of wonderful and heartbreaking to watch the film as it goes on. And Clooney in particular, there's a lot of people to highlight in this film for big things and little things that they're doing. But Clooney in particular, he has this wonderful ability to be the fool. He has this wonderful ability to be an action star. He has a wonderful ability to be a dramatist. And all of that comes into play here. And it comes into play because in a sort of Christmas Carol sort of way, Baumbach and Mortimer have Kelly revisit his life as he is trying to make his way to where his youngest daughter is in Europe. And even if it means throwing his life and the lives of his entourage, his publicist, who's played by Laura Dern, his manager, who's played by Adam Sandler, into absolute chaos. And it's, without getting into the nitty-gritty, and I could, this film says a lot about the difference between the cinematic life and real life. And how when you spend your entire life in the movies, we can sort of lose touch with this other side. And there's this wonderful moment with Jim Broadbent, who plays George Clooney's, we'll call him a mentor for the sake of ease, where the two of them are having this conversation, and Broadbent's character more or less makes something to the effect of that movies are their memories because they spent so much time on a film set, where folks like us, we're sitting on our couches and we're watching these things and making memories and connections. But for them, this is where they went to work. Everything that they remember is about what happened on a film set. And that is a line and in this moment within the film that really encapsulates this notion of this separation, and how you've got these people, audiences like myself, like you, like those of you watching at home, where we have a connection with Clooney and what we expect from a Clooney film or an Adam Sandler film or a Laura Dern film. And we bring those expectations, but they're still real people. And this film does a really wonderful job, I think, of cleaving the two and opening it up.
It's
If that
such
makes
a
any sense.
it does. It's really such a beautiful character study, and it is wrapped within this kind of Hollywood satire. That's the wrapping, but when you unwrap it, it's not about the glossy industry sheen that we
Mm-hmm.
may think we're going to be seeing. There's this deeply human self-reflection, and
Mm-hmm.
from the opening moment for me of this film, and kind of the brilliance of that opening oneer, which I talked about with Thomas just before this review. You really do sense that this movie is about, it is about performance, but not the performance of an actor, but the performance of who we are as people. And
Yes,
I think Jay's
absolutely.
journey, as we kind of see him examining what happens when we look back at who we wanted to be and
Mm-hmm.
then who we became. I'm so glad that you mentioned A Christmas Carol, because as soon as I saw it when I walked out, I was just drawn back to that. And we even have these glimpses of this man who is confronted with the emotional debris that his
Mm-hmm.
career has left behind as he's chased the spotlight. Those various encounters on his road trip, they are really like these ghost guided visions of
Yeah.
the life that he lived, but also in reflection the life that he could have lived, because while you don't see that, but you feel it. You feel him, the weight of his choices, and that's where A Christmas Carol that really stuck to me. And I thought also there were two other films I want to mention that this reminds me of, and I love all these films I'm going to talk about. It's a Wonderful Life is another one, because despite this being a Hollywood satire in a way, and it did have humor in it, the movie's
Mm-hmm.
heart is so tender for Jay Kelly. As this man is looking at things like the value of life isn't about the applause, it isn't about the awards. It's that love that maybe he dismissed or ignored. And that's just a beautiful thing to think about, and a sad thing to think about as well. And I think the closest film this brings back to me, and I haven't seen this film in years, but it's Bergman's classic Wild Strawberries. I don't know if you've ever seen it, from
Oh
1957,
no.
but that film is also about a man who is taking a road trip to receive an honorary award, and while he's doing that, he's has this reckoning where he's dealing with memory, regret, with dreams, and he's encountering this kind of merging of what was poetic in life, but also what was deeply human in life, and the things he missed out. The structural rhythm of Jay Kelly, there's a journey, there's encounters, there's memory fragments,
Mm-hmm.
there's this emotional release. In many ways, I wish that I had thought about this when I was in LA talking to Noah. I would have loved to have asked, did Wild Strawberries have any kind of influence? But those three films in particular, I think if you're looking for watching four films in a row, watch a block of films, these four would be beautiful films to watch together. But Jay Kelly, to me, just a beautiful film. You talked about the performances. Let's talk more about the performances. You mentioned George Clooney. Beautiful performance here. He's charismatic. Sorry,
Charismatic.
charismatic. Thank you. And you do see his humor. You also see the vanity of his character, but you see a character also who is wounded because of the choices, and he's reflective as well. Here's Jay, this guy who's mastered the public charm, but he has no idea how to truly live and experience real life. And I think
Not at
Clooney
all.
did that so well. You want to talk about any of the other characters that stood out to you as far as performances?
Something that I wrote about in my review, and I get into it a little bit longer for anybody that's interested, but something that I found fascinating. Emily Mortimer, for those unaware, is an actor. She has been working for a number of years. She's done some wonderful work. I'm a big fan of hers, particularly on the TV show The Newsroom. But she's
Yes.
she's
Yes.
been right in there. And Noah, obviously, who's written films, he's written a number of films before this, Marriage Story in particular, and White Noise were also distributed by Netflix, so he has a relationship with them. But he's a storyteller. Greta Gerwig, his partner in various projects as well as in life, is in this movie, playing Adam Sandler's wife. Adam Sandler frequently works with, has a long career, frequently works with his friends and family. I think at least one, if not two, of his daughters and possibly his wife also have other roles in this. George Clooney, his aunt, Rosemary Clooney,
Yes. Yes.
all, and Laura Dern, who's notably of cinematic royalty, if you will. Why I mention all of these things is that this film is about the way in which we make movies and the life we have versus the life we want, maybe with our family. Almost everybody that's significant in this film, as they talk about that relationship, have experienced these things. That either they always work with each other in terms of family or friends and creating that bond, or they've experienced it. And I think it adds a little something so that when we hear Laura Dern's character, she's the publicist, talking about missed opportunities and where she'd rather be, but she's got to be with Jay, who's losing his mind on a train through Europe, and stuff that she's got to do, it feels authentic. Whereas Adam Sandler's character, who plays his devoted manager, who is also devoted to his family, there is a wonderful moment where Sandler is reading through FaceTime a book to his young son to help him go to sleep, and Jay is watching it. Now, the technology wasn't going to be there when Jay's kids were going to sleep, but would Jay have thought about that? Would Jay have tried that? Whereas Sandler's character is doing this. And throughout the film, you get these little moments that this is what makes it so bittersweet about the choices that could have been made, and would you have taken the opportunity had you had the same choice? And what do these characters do when faced with the choice today versus what Jay does? And it is remarkable, and I find myself getting emotional thinking about it, and I really do want to watch it again. Sandler is incredible with this, mostly because it's a quiet performance.
Yes.
It's a human performance. He does incredible dramatic work. There's Uncut Gems, of course, from like 2019. There was Hustle from a couple years ago. He's Punch Drunk Love and a number of other films. Sandler has a way about him that I don't think people fully recognize. And this is a performance that provides yet another opportunity to see how he exists in these quiet moments, to see how he, as an actor, is present and vividly emotional while being incredibly still, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Absolutely, yes. Sandler, he is the emotional and professional glue for Jay, and I
Yeah.
think for me, from an audience perspective, you said understated. I think he understated, but I think his performance is sincere, and I think he's also the emotional glue for me because he's that kind of grounding presence for Jay, and in many ways, kind of that grounding presence for us, because you alluded to that he wanted to be with his family, and anytime he was having to be away from them, he still found ways to stay connected to them, and that was just beautiful. I think the trio of Laura Dern, Adam Sandler, and George Clooney, all three of them, even though it was a much larger cast, those are the three together that I felt made this film lived in, because you see these characters who have these long-term professional relationships and professional friendships together.
Mm-hmm.
And that mirrors, honestly, it does mirror the lives in which they've created, because they have all come from or have developed and created families that continue to, want to live within this industry, but to be connected to each other. And I just love what the three of them were able to do in particular. Yeah, just a beautiful film. It was beautifully shot. It was shot on 35 millimeter, and it gave that just beautiful texture for this. And the score was just a wonderful score. It added this emotional gravity to it. It had this warmth, and it found a way to almost feel something that was nostalgic and taking you back to kind of old Hollywood, but it just was just really worked for me. And the writing was sharp, it was funny, it was observational, and it was felt like if you're going to look at a Hollywood poem, or a poem about a person's life and a person wanting to try to figure out, is there a way that I can still find redemption or grace? Chasing grace, you see that. It was a beautiful, beautiful film for me, one that I didn't expect to touch me and to speak to me as much as it did.
I agree with that completely, particularly because of the marketing of the film. It leans into the classic Hollywood, this, as you said, with the cinematography. It's got this sort of magic and majesty about it. You're following Jay Kelly, right? And sort of you sort of expect it to be something that's looking back but uplifting. And the fact that it's not, the fact that it has heartwarming moments, just not in the way that one expects, it's far more introspective. And it's way more interested in using the comedy to support the notion of the fool and the choices we make. That I left that film far more moved. I expected it to be light. I expected it to be, you know, a George Clooney film that I could just take or leave. And I have found myself sitting and wrestling with it way more than I expected.
Yeah, me as well. I'm so glad I got a chance to check this out, and I'm glad that we're having the opportunity to talk about it. And I think my final reflection is, I did mention that there's such unexpected heart here in this film, and for me, that final thought was it reminded me that sometimes the most important audience is the one that's closest to home, and we definitely see Jay wrestling with that, and all the way through that final frame, that final scene. You see, there's a question that he asked, and it's all about that the things that matter or the things that should have mattered. Any final thoughts or questions or thoughts you want to share before you give us your rating?
Just simply that it is whatever expectation you have, and we all have them whenever it comes to a film that we're going to hopefully enjoy, is to set those aside, to allow yourself to go on this journey, this sort of cinematic play is the best way to put it. And the cast is listed as the players in the credits, and that's a great way to look at it. The way that everything is structured is as if watching a recorded play to a degree. And to allow yourself not to sit with the first reaction you have, but to give it a few beats, wait to see what you think next. As in life, there are no second chances. Can you put the movie back on? Absolutely. But before you do that, let it sit with you a little bit. It may surprise you.
Absolutely. And your rating for Jay Kelly, the Netflix film that you can find at home if you are a Netflix subscriber on December 5th and in limited theaters now. Your rating? Remember the report card, A to F.
I would easily give this an A.
All right. Solid A for
Solid A.
Jay Kelly from Douglas Davidson, and a solid A minus for me. There was one side story that didn't do a whole lot for me, and that's the only thing that took it down a little bit. But man, what a beautiful, beautiful film. Douglas Davidson, man, thanks for joining us, and this has been wonderful. Your website, elementsofmadness.com, you can find all sorts of wonderful movie goodness right there. And during the holiday season, we need some goodness, and it's all right there on Elements of Madness. Thanks,
Thank you
Douglas.
so much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to everyone who spends time with us on Meet Me at the Movies. We do appreciate you. You can always email us, info@c19.tv. And until next time, for the entire cast and crew, that's a wrap.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.